Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, it's 𝗙𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗃. Thank you for coming. And for the subscribers, always thank you so much for the love and the support. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. In today's video, if you watched my previous video, I talked about what this white man did in Africa, and he's one of the biggest YouTubers on the platform, literally. He came to the continent and he set up wells for some communities in those African countries that he went to be able to access drinkable clean water. And so in case you missed out that video, please go check it out, and I'll also put it in the link in the bio for you to get the full context of what is going on. Apparently, some African people, they were not really pleased, they were not happy for what this white man did. Guys, watch this clip with me before I even say anything. Come back and let's talk about it.
The biggest YouTuber in the world, 𝗬𝗏, just posted a video of him digging 100 wells in Africa. And I got to say, as an African myself, I'm not impressed because I am sick and tired of watching these palm-colored influencers using African villages as a stage for their white savior propaganda. Issues like poverty, disease, and bad drinking water are not exclusive to African regions. Flint, Michigan is a good example of an American city that got all three of those things. But 𝗬𝗏 made the intentional choice to go to an African village to make a big show of his great humanitarianism. Why? Because Western society is so conditioned to thinking of the entire continent of Africa as being beneath them that they will see no problem with people like 𝗬𝗏 exploiting the images of children for financial gain and for an ego boost. And I know in his heart he thinks he's doing the right thing, but with as big of a platform as he has, he's actually propagating imagery that says Western society is higher, African society is lower, and they need our help. And if history has told us anything, we know for a fact that your help doesn't help.
So there's a video circulating, gaining a lot of traction, and the conversation is growing about 𝗬𝗏. 𝗬𝗏 has or is planning to drill 100 wells across Kenyan schools. I don't know where in. I saw he's even calling some place Nairobi. No, you can't even say Nairobi. Yeah? You understand what's wrong with these Muzungus? Muzungus are very disgusting. Because we are trying to project, or we are trying to validate the stereotype that Kenya or Africa is a dark continent, dependent on handouts, dependent on philanthropic interventions. I would have expected that 𝗬𝗏, when he comes to Kenya, he's going to a place meeting young intellectuals. There's all these collectives of people who do a lot of IT stuff to talk about things to an audience who will take that and translate it into action, into money, into job creation, into wealth creation. He's promoting as if we are a poor country. We are not a poor country. First of all those regions that he's going to have something called Community Development Fund. It goes to the tune of $1 million specifically for building schools. Because 𝗬𝗏, if he took time to talk to people who are politically conscious, would tell you that the governors who get all this money, who get all these allocations, they don't do what is expected of them. What do they do instead? They hide the money, they launder it in the real estate sector. Yeah, and then they are all friends with who? With the US ambassador, like now Meg Whitman. America is the biggest problem because they are the ones who launder proceeds of crime in your banking systems. America is part of the problem, and you, 𝗬𝗏, are not supposed to be coming here to validate some of these long-held stereotypes and narratives that Africa is poor. No, we are not poor. We are the richest continent on earth. And what do? If you are really genuine, you should be going back there and doing your activism, reaching out to and even talking about these issues to your leaders, because Joe Biden, Donald Trump, they have embraced the corrupt Kenyan leadership. They are very for other reasons. They talk about security, they talk about what, they talk about terrorism, but it's never about our interests. So the people who have created the imbalance, the people who have caused poverty to become a way of life in Kenya, most of the responsibility is the Western governments, it's the Western regimes. They are the ones who get who have created a camaraderie with the corrupt African leadership. These are things which are hurting us, Kenyans and Africans by extension. We need trade, not aid. We need a hand up, not a handout. You understand? So these boreholes you are digging, the Kenyan government, even the smallest fund allocation to is called the Constituency Development Fund. can handle it. Mr. Beast is only redefining the NGO interventions. We've had even here NGOs for many years who have been engaged in similar interventions, but the problems are still persisting, 30 years, 50 years down the line. So what is the problem? The problem is our money, our productivity is still extracted by the Western capitals, Western regimes. Mr. Beast, we no longer need philanthropy. We don't need you in exchange for views, because you are still going to recover all your money from the views, on the social media platforms. In exchange for views, now you're going to leave a lasting image about Kenya that as regards to our situation. No, we are not a poor country. We have a lot of resources. We export coffee to America and stuff like that. In fact, every day they are creating more trade barriers to make access of our products difficult. And so that you guys are still benefiting, you're still gaining from the imbalance, and then you come to throw us those handouts here, and then you make a big charade, a big media frenzy over here, and then most of the Kenyans cannot be able to relate. So the problem is the Western regimes. You could have used your money to boost people. Your work is not to intervene and help young children over there. We have funds dedicated for that. It's a way you can help these people who have graduated and have no jobs. That's how you should be tuning your interventions. We are tired of these handouts, everyone. We are tired of these shows. We are tired.
As you've seen in the video, that is how this African man had to come and express his thought on the situation of Mr. Beast coming to Kenya. We went to different African countries. I can try to understand when you see your country is being portrayed as someone from America, a YouTuber, famous one, came to your country and set up these things and still kind of portrayed the narrative again of, oh, African people are poor, or Kenyans are poor, I even did this for them. But there has to be a line drawn and differentiate between people that actually do things and solve problems than the people that actually come and take advantage of people. Like I previously talked about a white woman who came to Uganda pretending to be a doctor, pretending to be this thing that she wasn't, and she was performing surgeries on Ugandan children who literally lost their lives. That is manipulation. That is taking advantage of people. That is the worst thing ever. But if someone comes and does something and solves a problem that people really needed to be solved, and you have an issue with it, that's when I'm like, okay, Africans, sometimes we need to appreciate when someone does good things for us, because it is something that people needed to be solved. And he talked about how there are creative funds for the villages of Kenya in those societies where they fundraised almost $1 million for those communities to thrive. But why or how come nothing was set up for those communities? Like, what's the excuse? If it was $1 million that was put in like funds for those communities to thrive, how come there was not even a borehole for these people to have clean water? Is it the fault of this man that came to Kenya or to Uganda to help put out these wells for people to access water? He also said USA is the biggest problem of African people, of the African continent. Yes, that is true. US is always in everybody's business. Like the nations that colonized us are always in our business because they do need our resources. They do need what we have. Are we going to keep on crying about it? Like, does that mean African leaders are all going to be puppets and not do things that are better for their own people? And so I feel like we as Africans are kept in a mindset of always blaming white people and excusing our own governments, excusing our own leaders. Because in this situation, we have these societies where another person from another continent saw that these people had this problem. He came in 8 months, he set up 100 wells in 8 months. And then we have leaders that are always coming and promising things and never do it. We have leaders that go and get loans from the Western government, from America, from the UK. African countries are always getting loans from the Western governments, but they can't even do their hospitals, they can't do the schools, they can't change their education, they can't fix their roads. Like, they don't really do things that matter for their people. And then Africans, when someone comes and does something generous, we have to excuse our leaders for not setting up those things for their people and attack this person or this individual. That's where I have an issue. He also went on to say that Mr. Beast would just come and empower the youth and talk to them and just teach them on how to make money, how to thrive, how to be successful. But we've grown up having mentors come to our schools, mentors coming to our societies and teaching us about money, teaching us about, making our lives better. What would it do if he came and talked to the youth and didn't do anything? So the fact that he came and saw a problem and fixed it instantly there and then we are attacking him for doing so, he should have gone and talked to the political leaders, to the officials, and letting them know the money that they bring out as funds don't go to the right hands. Is that his job to do? Is he entitled to come and talk to our leaders? It's crazy also how he was trying to make it like Mr. Beast came for the views and for attention, for a show somehow, which I find kind of ridiculous, I'm sorry to say, because none of the media platforms in Kenya, Uganda, or the countries he went to even knew about his projects until he posted that 10-minute video that everyone was shocked by. If it was about attention, I think he would have called the media platforms, he would be on TV, would have seen him all over the news, but it was not in that case. So, and at the end of the day, he makes money off of making videos, of helping people. The money that he makes from those videos still goes back to other communities. And let's not act like he only came to Africa or he only comes to Africa. I've seen him go to Asia. Have seen him in America helping the homeless people. I've seen him go to other different parts of the world. So why is it that he came to African countries and did what was necessary that our leaders couldn't even do, and then we are calling him out for it like it's an issue, like it's a problem? How many of the black people that are rich or black rich YouTubers are willing to come and do the same thing? How many African big YouTubers are willing to do the same thing that this man did to the African continent? But we just want to excuse everything to the white nations, when in actual sense, if our leaders were so strong on developing the African continent, they would start doing things that are good for their own people. It's so crazy to me that in my country, Uganda, when the member of parliament gets sick, when the president gets sick, when these people in big places get sick, they never go to Ugandan hospitals. They are always going abroad in America to get medication. What does that show you? That means they know they have bad health systems that they don't want to fix, and so if they leave them not fixed, we as Ugandans are going to still cry to them, please help fix our health system, we are not okay. And they'll come and do one clinic and they'll ask for your votes, and we'll vote for them because we're like, oh, they fixed something, when in actual sense they can fix things for us to stop even admiring what is in the Western countries. African people, to admire what is in the West is not because the West is the best place to live in, but because our leaders, our people that govern us, don't do the bare minimum to fix things that are effective and important for African people to be able to stay in our countries. They just want to eat the money, stay in power, and just enjoy life. So the fact that we Africans are excusing that and putting the blame on individuals that come out to even help us in things that we clearly see we needed and see that as a problem, then we are mentally ill and we need to get therapy.
One of the things that he said in this video was that Mr. Beast should have sat down with professionals in IT and other professionals, I assume, to consult over something. And in my head, I'm like, consult over what? My personal project, I consult 50 people while I know the solution lies with 10 people. Isn't that the same process that people have been using to send aid to Africa, consultations and meetings, that has been failing and the actual work ends up not getting done? The only reason we're having a conversation about Mr. Beast is because he did the opposite and upset the whole balance of things. So now you want him to revert to the very things you accuse your politicians of doing. Increasing a 2-step process into a 10-step process, into a 15-step process, and end up not doing the work. The second thing I disagree with is the fact that he was quoting the American government and how much they run interference in places that they have no business being, which is largely true. Who does Mr. Beast represent apart from his own brand? And secondly, what position does Mr. Beast hold in the American government so that you can label him with all these problems you're talking about? Why do you think that it's his problem to legislate African problems to the leaders that are actually elected there because you think they're in cahoots with Kenyan leaders? Well, how is that his problem? His problem literally was kids need water, let's dig wells. So what exactly is your problem here? The other thing I had a problem with in what he said is the fact that he has an oppressed African mindset, that anyone else offering a solution that is not African is obviously a colonizer, which is not the case. So to expect a YouTuber who makes his money and sets some part of it apart to help the less fortunate to come to Africa, carry your problems and go legislate them to his Western government is the highest form of entitlement I have seen in a while, and I have seen some entitlement in my life. It's not only entitlement, it's also oppressed mindset. And the problem that you actually have is with your political class, which we can solve internally. Your problem is not with a random YouTuber who chose to help children somewhere in Kenya.
Now, in your video, you've talked about how he's trying to make Africa look like a dark continent. Now, I don't know if you watched the same video I watched, because he didn't in any way make Kenya or any of the countries he went to build wells look bad. Because all over the world, there's places that are poverty-stricken or places with people who are not able to get basic needs and get resources like water, food. If you watch more of his videos, you realize he's actually a person who tries to be in touch with the people who do not have much, and that's why he gives out so much. These kids were not getting water. These people were not getting water. How was him coming to talk to people or talk to the county governments or talk to the governments about the corruption that goes on in Kenya gonna help these people get water as soon as possible? He yourself said there's something called the Community Development Fund, and the amount of money allocated is over $1 million every year. Now, with that amount of money, there should have been so much development and so much growth happening in these communities that don't have the resources they need. And you yourself said that the governments, the county governments, and the people in power would normally misuse this money. It's a known thing. Now, what does that have to do with him? What does that have to do with him actually wanting to help people? Our political issues are not his problem. So you bitterly and angrily talking about how it's bad that he came here to help us is very questionable. Then you started talking and mumbling about how the US is the problem. Now, how is one man from that large country in connection with what's happening with our governments? Whatever our government does and what his government does has nothing to do with him. In short, Mr. Beast saw a problem and immediately fixed it.
As you've seen, that's how some of the Kenyan people also replied to him. We just need to do better as African people, and we shouldn't take the blame away from our own selves, our own countries, our own governments, and always put the blame on the outside world. Yes, it is fully the force that is mostly powering how we are treated in our countries, but we do know that if our leaders do better, then the narratives change. Let me know what you think about this. Are we overreacting as some of us that really appreciate what this man did for the African people? Because I do appreciate it, and I'm really thankful that he did that. Yeah, that's it for me today. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.